Her Dark Secret. Chapter 1. A Quiet Girl. The town of Willow Creek was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business, or at least thought they did. It had one main street lined with old shops, a diner that smelled of coffee and fried eggs, and a community so tightly knit that secrets were hard to keep. Yet, among the cheerful chatter and curious eyes, there was one girl who seemed untouchable, wrapped in her own silence. Her name was Clara Moore, a 23-year-old woman who had moved back to Willow Creek after studying in the city. To most people, Clara was polite but distant. She attended Sunday service with her mother, volunteered occasionally at the library, and worked part-time at the local bakery. She never caused trouble, never argued, never raised her voice. But if anyone looked closely, really closely, they would have noticed how her eyes sometimes clouded with fear when certain names were mentioned, or how her hands trembled when the night fell too quiet. She smiled often, but her smiles never reached her eyes. Clara carried something within her that she prayed no one would ever discover. A dark secret. Chapter 2. Whispers of the Past. It began when Clara was 17. At that time, she was a bright, hopeful girl with a future everyone in town admired. She had won state awards for writing, and her teachers whispered about scholarships. But her home life was complicated. Her father, Henry Moore, had left when she was young, and her mother, Evelyn, struggled to make ends meet. When Clara turned 17, she met Daniel Carter, a man nearly 10 years older, who had recently moved into town. He was charming, with dark hair and confident eyes. He owned a small mechanic shop and quickly became popular among the men for his skill and the women for his charisma. At first, Daniel treated Clara kindly. He noticed her passion for writing, encouraged her dreams, and often lingered outside the school to give her a ride home. Clara, innocent and naive, believed his attention was harmless, special even. But what began as kindness soon turned into control. Daniel isolated her from friends, convinced her mother that he was simply being protective, and whispered promises that one day they would run away together. Then, one night, everything changed. Chapter 3. The Night She Never Spoke Of. Clara never told anyone exactly what happened that night. But it was the night she stopped writing stories, stopped dreaming, stopped trusting. Daniel had invited her to his home under the pretense of showing her an old typewriter he thought she'd love. Instead, she discovered the typewriter wasn't the only thing he wanted her to see. The encounter left Clara broken. She stumbled home past midnight, her body shaking, her voice gone. Her mother asked no questions, perhaps afraid of the answers. From that night on, Clara built walls so high around herself that no one could climb them. Daniel left town shortly after, under mysterious circumstances. Rumors swirled. Some said he had debts, others that he was in trouble with the law. Clara never clarified. All she knew was that he was gone, and with him, the truth of what he had done. Chapter 4. Return to the Shadows. Years passed. Clara studied in the city, keeping to herself, always cautious, never letting friendships grow too deep. She became an expert at pretending. To strangers, she was normal, just a shy, bookish girl. To herself, she was a storm barely contained. When she returned to Willow Creek at 23, everyone assumed it was because she missed home. In reality, Clara was running from memories, from whispers, from herself. She thought the small town would be easier, quieter, but secrets have a way of following, no matter how far you run. And then came the day she saw him again. Chapter 5. Daniel's Return. Clara was stocking shelves at the bakery when the bell above the door chimed. She glanced up, and her blood ran cold. Daniel Carter stood in front of her, older, but still carrying the same confident smirk. His hair had thinned slightly, but his eyes were unchanged, sharp, calculating, dangerous. "Clara," he said smoothly, as if they were old friends. "It's been a long time." Her heart pounded so loudly, she thought the whole shop could hear. She forced a smile. "Daniel." No one else in the bakery seemed to sense her fear. To them, he was just another customer returning to his hometown. But Clara knew better. His presence meant her carefully buried secret was at risk of being unearthed. Chapter 6. The Threat. Days passed, and Daniel began appearing everywhere. At the diner, near the library, even outside her house. At first, he pretended it was coincidence, but Clara knew he was deliberately invading her world. One evening, as she walked home, he cornered her under the dim streetlight. "You thought I'd forgotten, didn't you?" he whispered, stepping close. "But secrets don't stay buried forever. Not when I know the truth." Clara's chest tightened. "Leave me alone." "Daniel," he chuckled softly. "Oh, I will. But not before you do something for me. You owe me, Clara." Her stomach churned. The past was back, and now it came with demands. Chapter 7. The mask begins to crack. Clara tried to keep living normally, but the fear gnawed at her. She stopped sleeping well, her work suffered, and her mother grew concerned. Evelyn asked if Clara was sick, but Clara simply shook her head. How could she explain the nightmare resurfacing? Her best friend from high school, Lena Brooks, noticed too. One afternoon, Lena cornered her at the library. "You're hiding something, Clara. I can see it. You've always been quiet. But this is different. What's going on?" Clara wanted to tell her, to pour out the truth, but the words lodged in her throat. She couldn't relive that night, couldn't expose her scars. So instead, she whispered, "Nothing. I'm fine." But Lena didn't believe her. Chapter 8. Blackmail. Daniel's demands escalated. At first, he wanted money. Then, he wanted Clara to help him forge documents. using her connections at the library. "If you don't," he threatened one evening, "I'll make sure everyone in Willow Creek knows what happened between us. Do you want them to see you the way I do?" Clara's hands shook. The thought of the town knowing, the whispers, the judgment, terrified her. In a place like Willow Creek, once you were branded, you could never escape it. But she also knew she couldn't keep giving in. Something inside her was beginning to stir, something long buried. Anger. Chapter 9. The Confession. Lena confronted Clara again, this time more forcefully. "I saw you with him," Lena said. "Annual, what's he doing back? And why do you look like you've seen a ghost every time he's near?" Clara's defenses crumbled. Tears welled in her eyes. For the first time in 6 years, she spoke the truth. Haltingly, painfully, but fully. She told Lena everything. When she finished, silence hung between them. Lena reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Clara," she whispered, "you've carried this alone for too long. But you're not alone anymore." Chapter 10. Taking Back Power. With Lena's support, Clara found the strength to fight back. They gathered evidence of Daniel's blackmail, recorded conversations, and prepared to go to the police. For the first time in years, Clara felt a spark of her old self returning. The girl who once dreamed, who once wrote stories of courage. But Daniel was clever. He sensed her defiance and grew more dangerous. One night, he broke into her house. Chapter 11. The Breaking Point. Clara awoke to the sound of footsteps. Her heart hammered as she crept downstairs and found Daniel standing in her living room, holding one of her old journals. "You think you can outsmart me?" he hissed. "You'll always be mine, Clara. No one will believe you." But Clara wasn't the same broken girl she had been at 17. Her fear turned into fury. She grabbed the phone and dialed 911 in front of him. "Get out," she said, her voice steady. "The police are on their way." Daniel's smirk faltered. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Chapter 12. Justice. When the police arrived, Lena was already there, holding the evidence they had collected. Clara, trembling but resolute, told the officers everything. It wasn't easy. Reliving her past felt like tearing open a wound that had barely healed. But she realized that silence only gave Daniel more power. Speaking out was the only way to reclaim her life. Daniel was arrested for breaking and entering, blackmail, and investigated for his past crimes. The town, shocked by the revelations, rallied around Clara instead of condemning her. People saw her not as weak, but as incredibly brave. Chapter 13. The Dawn. Months later, Clara sat by her window with a pen in hand. For the first time in years, she began to write again. The words flowed like they had been waiting all along. Words of pain, yes, but also of survival, of strength, of light breaking through darkness. Her dark secret had once chained her. But now, it had become her story of resilience. She was no longer the girl hiding in shadows. She was a woman who had faced the past and stepped into her future. And for the first time, in a long time, Clara smiled. A real smile, one that reached her eyes.